All right, so this is exciting. We are about to make our first phone interview for Facebook in the Morning. We're going to be talking with Kyle Boylan, who is a visual effects artist, graduate of digital media arts as well at Seneca's School of Communication Arts. Let's give him a ring.
Hello?
Hello, Kyle.
Hey,
How's it going, dude?
going great.
It's Tim.
Yeah.
You are being recorded right now, just so you know.
All right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So you
Right
are.
into it.
Yep. You are the first official phone-in guest of Facebook in the Morning, the show which slacks off when the time change happens. That was a fatal flaw in my plan, dude. I did not.
yeah.
I did not anticipate someone changing time. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, it's been a tough week.
It has indeed. So I'm about a week behind on my scheduling, but I'm catching up, and I figure I'm going to kick it off with the interview here. So thanks for doing this. I appreciate it.
Oh, yeah, I'm glad to do it.
Did you happen to catch any of the Tedford interview that we did?
Yeah, I think I saw most of it, or all of it.
Yep.
I had it on the...
Yep, Tedford is an entertaining fellow.
Yeah.
So speaking of
You
which,
probably got a lot more experience doing these things than I do. So we'll see how it goes.
yeah, you know, like I think he's a part-time model, so
Oh,
you know,
right.
yeah,
I can see that.
yeah, but just a hand model and really just thumbs. He just does thumb modeling.
Right. I remember that from school. I was like, man, those thumbs.
Yeah, it's all Xbox, dude. Speaking of which, I should give a little bit of an introduction here. We're kind of rambling just because I've known you for a while. We actually went to college together. We did digital media arts. Now, following that, you went back and you took another program. Do you want to talk a little bit about what that was?
Yeah, I went to the visual effects program. It was just a 1 year or 8 months.
Mm-hmm. So what kind of program was that? Like, what were you learning in that program?
It was all, mostly just compositing, central around compositing visual effects.
Uh-huh.
So,
any particular software or?
At the time, yes. At the time we were using, we were learning digital fusion and combustion.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, combustion.
I think that's changed. Yeah. I remember we had that one class of DMA that was combustion. That's sort of what got me to...
Yeah, that was cool stuff. I always thought I would like to do a bit more of that, but then I sort of went towards programming a little bit more.
Right, yeah. That's what got me interested in it. And then I went and took that class. I don't think... they definitely don't do combustion anymore, but...
So that's a change that you've seen since you came out of the program?
Yeah, it's mostly a program called Nuke by the Foundry. That's
yeah, Nuke. Yeah, I went to their user group meeting before. It was some really cool stuff they were doing.
Yeah.
So would you say then that Nuke is the good software to be learning right now for anybody who's listening, who's interested in VFX?
Yeah, I can't really there's definitely studios that use other software, but if you're picking one to learn it, I can't think of anything else that would come close to Nuke.
Mm-hmm. So that's a node-based software, is it not?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you get used to the idea of nodes, then there's probably a lot of softwares that you can make use of, I would say.
Oh, yeah. Like I said, I learned on Digital Fusion, and when I switched to Nuke, there's a bit of a learning curve, but the same idea was there, so
cool.
How you organize things stays the same. So
yeah. But it sounds like... what Tedford was saying actually holds true there, that you're always learning. There's something new to pick up all the time still.
Yeah.
That's probably one of the most important things when you work in digital media, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. That was definitely a you can't just learn what you got in school and expect to ride that out very long.
Yeah. I mean, almost by the time you get out of school, it's already kind of starting to fade a little bit. Do you remember we actually learned not Flash, but Director when we were in DMA, and that was pretty much dead by the time we got out.
Yeah, I remember, like, I didn't know so much about that kind of stuff at the time, but Director, I mean, even when we were in there, people were sort of like, why are we learning this? And it was like some people used it. But,
and I mean, it still gets used in a few like niche areas like kiosks or things like that, but I think even so, like, just learning to pick up new skills, whatever it is that you're learning, like learning to learn basically is still very valid.
Totally.
Now, I know a lot of people are going to wonder about how you got started, Kyle, and maybe we can talk a little bit about like what you're doing now, so people can sort of see, what a path is like when you go working in VFX. So, do you want to talk a little bit about your company that you're working with, some of the things that you've done?
Okay. Well, do you want to talk about where I started or where I am now?
Well, let's talk about where you are right now, and then we'll talk about how you kind of got there.
Okay, so right now, I'm at a smaller studio here in Toronto called Rocket Science.
Mm-hmm.
And they kind of have a wide range of things. They'll do anything from a TV documentary to a feature film.
That's got to be kind of interesting.
Yeah, because there's definitely a different pace. It's always about judging what sort of quality limits you're trying to hit, like how much time you have on something. Big part. Like, obviously you can't. The things you see on a DVD extended feature, where they talked about how they achieved these effects for avatars and all that. Obviously, you can't use that same stuff for months to do a shot in a TV show.
Right.
So you get a lot of that sort of hopping back and forth.
I think that's definitely one of the big things you learn when you get out and you start actually working on commercial stuff. Because, like, in school, you pretty much get unlimited do-overs, Yeah. You can just keep plugging away at it. You can spend, 80% of your time fixing the kerning on text or something like that. Not so, not so much, would you say, when you've got a boss and so forth, and you just have to pick your battles a little bit more, I guess.
Yeah, you definitely gotta be as aware of the timeline that they're expected, and get as much done in that time. Yeah.
So one of the projects I wanted to ask you about specifically, that I was excited when I heard you had worked on it, was the Halo4 Forward Unto Dawn movie, basically, sort of web series / movie. And I was watching the special features on that, and there was a piece on the visual effects, and I saw that it was done right here in Toronto, and I heard that you had worked on that. So I'm wondering, how did you find that? Like, was that a little bit different experience from other projects? What were some of the high points of that?
Well, definitely the one thing that sort of set it apart was the fact that there were, we were doing something that people really care about.
Yes, definitely.
I've worked on movies that I thought were good movies before, I've worked on the Resident Evil movies too. But
I friggin' love those movies, dude. I love them.
Yeah, they're did some good stuff on those. But something about the Halo one, it was like everyone kind of really wanted to do good work on it.
Yeah.
So it was kind of exciting in that form, like yeah, the project in general I thought had a good vibe from when I got on, anyways.
One thing I noticed when I was sort of doing a bit of calculating from the special features, that it seemed like it was a very quick turnaround time on it, probably because the launch of the game was happening, and this was kind of to proceed the launch of the game. Did you guys feel the pinch a bit in terms of available timeline? Like what's that like on a production like that?
Yeah, it was definitely, it was a pretty tight deadline. I think they did it very, my understanding anyways, is that like the early stages they had people in there and then bring in the people later. So as a compositor, I was kind of one of the last people on. So
Right.
so that was like for 3 months, but due to another contract, I was only in there for the last 2 months. Being gone for 2 weeks of that.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So it was a very short job, but
And what type of work would you be doing on that project, Kyle?
so I guess my big claim to fame on that is the plasma explosions.
Oh yeah,
one of those Covenant.
yeah,
one of those
man.
Covenant. So they actually shot these explosions really well, and all I did was kind of add that sort of plasma-y look.
I loved it. Like, I wondered how they would kind of do that, because sometimes you hear, some criticisms of Halo because it's very colorful. It's not like some other shooter games that are very kind of matte and
Right.
everything is burned and destroyed and so forth. And in Halo, you got a lot of like pinks and purples and blues and reds and so forth. And I wondered how they would make that work in a movie. But they definitely did. Like, you never felt like it was cartoony, or that there wasn't a sense of danger for the characters and so forth.
Yeah, you definitely have that sort of battle between going too colorful and having it look too boring. So
Yeah,
they had done like a lot of like reference work before on like where they were very clear on like what sort of range it was supposed to fall in. So,
I thought they did a pretty good job with the costume design as well. The costume seemed functional, which was, I'm sure that was a bit of a challenge too. Like, and then the idea was that they sort of introduced the characters as rookies, so they had a bit of freedom to show, what those costumes would look like. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, like they had the training gear and all that.
Yeah. I thought it was a smart design all around. And so let me ask you just kind of an opinion question there. So this was not. I don't feel like this movie was really made for theaters specifically. Would you say that's correct?
Yeah. Well. Yeah, because they knew right off the bat it was gonna be this webisode thing. So obviously, when I first heard that, I was kind of like, oh, this is gonna be some sort of cheap internet thing. But
yeah,
it's a weird sort of in between. And then obviously once they sell it on Blu-ray, then there has to be like a certain standard that you gotta hit.
Oh, I see. Okay. Because like when I was watching it, like, to be honest, I hadn't seen it as a web series, and I picked it up on DVD because I thought it was, sounded kind of interesting. But I was expecting, when you hear web series, you're right. Like, you're sort of thinking, well, this is going to be it'll be okay, but it's not going to be like really great. But then I watched it, and I'm like, I think I got this wrong. I think this must have been in theaters because it's just really good quality. And You know, and then when I watch the special features on it, I'm like, wow, how did they put something like this together so fast? And they got started, you know, shooting around April and had to have it out before November. That seems pretty darn quick to me. Would you agree based on the feature productions that you've worked on?
Yeah, like definitely the first time I saw up on someone else's screen some of the close-ups of the Elite.
Yeah.
It was kind of an eye-opener for me. Just like, you know, normally I kind of expected the aliens would always be in the background, sort of out of focus, or
right.
the camera would be shaking all over the place.
Right.
But they really went right at it. So
yeah.
it's like, okay, I guess not holding back.
So here's my question for you, Kyle, because I'm wondering about this. Do you think that maybe we're seeing you know, a new way for high quality features to get made? Or do you think it's because it's Halo? Because, as you say, like, people working on that, they're gonna want to do a fantastic job because, you know, it's such a popular franchise. What's your thoughts on that? Do you think we'll see more of this kind of thing happen?
Well, I think definitely the fact that it's Halo, not only because of the like the work people want to put into it, but probably with Microsoft backing it, and from I can't say for sure that it was them, but from my understanding, 343, they really had their stuff together. So whenever we needed something, it was, from my point of view anyways, it seemed like they were there and they knew what they wanted, so there wasn't a lot of sort of decision making as we're going. It was a lot of everything worked out, how it's supposed to look, how it's supposed to go.
So they went in with a plan so that there would be less revisions, less back and forth.
Yes, and definitely from my experience working on other movies that have like very skilled directors, usually even the visual effects go very well because they always know what they want and they're very clear.
Oh, isn't that interesting? Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't know. In my head, I sort of, I guess, I mean, I don't work in visual effects, but I sort of separate the two, and I wonder, you know, how much the director's involved when it comes to the visual effects, or if that's left to effects experts. But it sounds like you're saying like it's helpful when the director is involved with the VFX.
And to be fair, I guess when I say there's a skilled director, I guess it's a team. I guess he will have a visual effects supervisor or whatever their titles are. I don't know, but I'm sure if it's like a big name skilled director, he's probably got his people that he trusts who are probably pretty skilled themselves, kind of thing.
It must get pretty hectic if you do have to make revisions to a VFX shot, because I mean, like for me, you know, I just changed some code and, you know, that's pretty much it. But for what you guys do, that's gotta make you pull your hair out if you have to redo something.
Yeah, well, I've always been a believer if you just go through the steps and do it properly, then it should work out. Sometimes you don't want to be making animation changes after you've basically tried to final the shot. Yeah. So that's why, like, you know, those animation play blasts and everything, if you just don't skip any steps, I find it runs a lot smoother.
You're talking like a grizzled veteran there.
Well, I'm the guy at the end, so I'm always like, why do I gotta work on this? I know it's not gonna get approved.
Nice. All right, so that gives the listeners a bit of an idea about some of the stuff that you've been doing, and so let's take it back a little bit. You are not the grizzled veteran. You are the rookie cop on the first beat. And I'm wondering, you know, how do you go from finishing up your program into like your first gig? What's it like? You know, anything that helped you along your way, or that you might pass along for people who are kind of looking to get into this? So maybe we start with like, you know, what did your job search look like? And I don't know if job search is even the right term in your industry, but how did, what was your first steps?
Well, like as part of the program, we were making our demo reel. So that was kind of like the final project was your demo reel, which is essentially the 80% of your package that you give to a company, right? Yeah. Your resume and all that. And if I remember what I did, I think it was the day after the last day of classes. Me and one of my classmates just went around to a couple studios here in Toronto. We drew up a little map and just spent the day going to each one, dropping off resumes.
Nice.
Resumes. Like we had little packages done in person. I don't know if that's entirely necessary anymore, but I think it still helps maybe. So,
I like it. I like the personal touch, You
like the drop? Yeah, it kind of, an email could get lost pretty easily, so it probably still helps.
Yeah, exactly. So,
especially if you don't know anyone, there's nothing else to sort of get your foot in the door, and that probably help.
So you did that along with somebody else? You kind of teamed up on it a bit?
Yeah, we kind of, I guess it's gonna, you're going around the whole city, so it's gonna take about a whole day. You might as well do it with someone else.
Mm-hmm.
And even though you're technically competing for a job, it's like, well,
Yeah. Well, I mean, you make a good, you make a good point because you're competing anyway. You might as well know and like the person that you're competing with. I would say.
Yeah, you're all going around these places anyways.
Yeah.
So even if you're not going together, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Unless someone gets there and says, "We need someone right now."
Yeah.
Only one.
And
they just give you. God. They break the stick in half and give you drop half of it on the floor.
Enter the ring. 2 men enter, 1 man leave with a job. Oh man, yeah, that's how we do it. Actually, that's how we do all of our hiring at Audley. Yeah,
right.
It's usually more than 2 though. We, we like to have at least 6 people enter the ring.
Oh, nice. It's a battle royale type thing.
Yeah, yeah. We started with 2, but it's more exciting with 6.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this: knowing what you know now, is there anything you would have done differently with your demo reel?
Oh, with my demo reel?
Yeah.
Actually, well, how to word this. Looking back, I liked my demo reel as what it was.
Yeah.
Obviously, if I watched it now, I'd squirm and
yeah. I know what you mean.
But like for an entry level demo reel, I was really happy with it.
Yeah. Nice.
Because one thing I did sort of differently is I didn't spend, when I was in school, I didn't spend a long time doing big effects. Everyone wants to blow up the car or do the big post-apocalyptic city shot, which is great. And I did have like 1 or 2 sort of biggish ones, but I did a lot of stuff that I thought companies would actually be looking for people who could do. So I had simple paint outs and removing buildings or people or
that's
like
interesting.
That. I filled a lot of my demo reel with that stuff.
So you sort of shaped it to make them visualize you in an entry position, because that's what you're going after, is an entry position.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Clever.
Yeah, I was just going for the job. Yeah.
Yeah. That's really smart, actually, because probably in
no one's
time,
gonna hire you. To do the big effects.
Right. Like in time, you're gonna, have a lot more opportunity to work on the big shots. So, maybe working on, something that you could see yourself doing, you have more opportunity to do it really well, and impress somebody. That's good thinking. I like that. So then how did it work? Did you do an interview, or did they bring you in and give you a test, or how'd that go?
Yeah, I guess I got my first interview pretty quickly. Actually, yeah, it was. I remember it was before I even got home from the dropping off of my reel.
Huh.
I'd got my first call.
Nice.
It was like a message. So I went in a couple days later, did an interview. One thing that I will admit I did that I wish I hadn't. I got some advice from my dad about my interview, who's an accountant.
Ah, yes.
So of course he told me to wear the suit.
Yeah, yeah.
Probably could have not done that. I think that's one thing where the art sort of visual effects industry,
Yeah.
maybe you don't need to wear a suit.
Yeah. Account management's down the hall. Down the hall on the left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I did get that job, so they were able to make fun of me on it years later.
Nice. Well, you made your dad happy anyway, so. Excellent. So now, all right, that's really good. Those are some good tips, Kyle. I'm sure people are going to appreciate it. What's it like in Toronto? Is there opportunity? And why would one think about going out to Vancouver?
Well, definitely in Vancouver, they get a lot of big shows. So if you're looking for the big credits, then that's the place to go.
Yeah.
Definitely the bonus to Toronto, and I think Vancouver. I haven't actually. I've been contacted by companies, but I haven't actually pursued something, so I don't know 100% what the situation is. But I know in Toronto, it's actually extremely busy right now. So now is definitely a good time to be looking for work.
Oh, excellent. I'm sure people will be happy to hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, everywhere seems really busy.
Excellent.
I know we've been emptying storage closets here and filling them with desks and computers here. So.
Oh, fantastic. That's good. Because I know there was a bit of a dry spell in VFX, actually in film in general, for a little bit there. I was reading some reports, and it was indicating that sometime around basically around the time that we were getting out of DMA, that things had kind of cooled off in the industry a little bit. So it's nice to hear that it's stabilized and pick up again.
Yeah, it definitely goes up and down. I remember there was one summer where I wasn't working for about 3 months. I just didn't find
That's got to
anything.
be rough.
Yeah, it was. It was like an eye-opener. You kind of think about. I guess that's probably the closest I came to going out to Vancouver.
Well, I do hear of people moving around a lot to follow projects.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I was chatting with a friend the other day, and we were saying why is there a Hollywood, and what he was telling me was basically that there's a Hollywood because people just didn't want to move so much anymore, and it's a place where as projects end and people free up to work on other things, they can probably find something geographically similar to what they've been doing. He was bringing that up because in video games, we're starting to see some of the same patterns where the game finishes and then people kind of go their separate ways and then attach themselves to other game projects that are being done. So that's starting to happen, but without the Hollywood. There's no Hollywood for video games, basically. So it can be a little bit rough. People have to bounce around a lot more because that hasn't really evolved yet the way a mature industry like film has.
Right. Well, I've always been under the impression that Hollywood is there because of the weather. It's always sunny in Los Angeles, in California there, so good for filming.
Right. Yeah. No, that makes total sense from from when Hollywood got started. I guess maybe there's some of that in Western Canada also. they get maybe a little bit milder weather and so forth, maybe they get squeeze in a few more shooting days than we get here?
I find, as far as I know, because everyone talks about the Hollywood North, and Hollywood North this and that. It's funny because Hollywood North, in terms of filming, seems to be Toronto, because it looks like it can pass as Chicago or New York or wherever.
Yes.
But then for post-production, it seems to be Vancouver.
Right.
And their big draw is that they're on the same time pattern as Los Angeles, right? You're not. They're not calling you just as you're going home to make some notes. You're like, what are you talking about? I'm going home.
Right. Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't realize that. So maybe another draw for people who work in VFX.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I do see a lot of shooting around where our studio is located, because we have the graffiti alley outside and so forth, and you see a lot of different shows being shot there. The funny thing is, like, I sometimes see them, redoing the graffiti. I guess they want different graffiti in the shot.
Wow.
Yeah, I've seen that a few times. I've also seen the lighting getting covered up so they can do their own lighting. Like they'll cover up the street lights and so forth, and then light it to look like there's a street light. I'm sure they know what they're doing. It just looks funny to me.
Yeah. The movie magic.
Yeah. Well, I promised I would not keep you more than a half hour on the line, Kyle. And we've actually hit that point now.
Okay.
So I really want to thank you for doing the interview. That's much appreciated. Hopefully,
no problem.
I'd like to get you on again, and maybe some other friends of ours. We can spread the knowledge a little bit, and give a good start to people who are just getting going. It's also nice to keep up with other sort of related industries and hear what you guys do. That's really fun.
Yeah, we're all still, it's different, but we're all on the same boat with generally how things work.
Yeah, man. Like everything's sort of merging all together. So it's kind of nice to hear what other guys are doing. There's always similarities, and I find that so fascinating when you find like somebody who does different work, but it's a related field. And right away you find that you've faced some of the same challenges no matter what you're doing. So cool. All right, well, thank you very much, Kyle. I'll let you go, and I'll shoot you a note. I'll let you know when I've got this nicely edited and so forth. I might be able to get it up tomorrow, I'm hoping.
Right.
Tomorrow is kind of my goal for getting the show back on track. Yeah, so this would definitely help with that. So yeah, thank you very much, Kyle. Really appreciate it. That's Kyle Boylan, VFX artist for Facebook in the Morning, and we're done. We're out.